Welcome back, everyone. Appreciate you tuning in. This is episode 3 of the NASEF Scholastic Esports Academy podcast. This is an opportunity to really get to know some of the NASEF leaders in the community and also bringing in some guest folks to talk about their experience in Scholastic Esports. Before we begin, my name is Jarrell Batak. I am the Chief Operating Officer for NASEF. But let's go ahead and do a round of introductions. Just share who you are, where you're from, and what you're doing with Scholastic Esports, y'all. Please, anyone can unmute.
My name is... Go ahead.
Jinx.
My name is Alyssa Miller. I work at Bayshore Middle School in Middletown, New Jersey. I am an educational technology specialist there, and I am the esports advisor for my middle school team and a member of the GSE board, which is Garden State Esports.
My name is Dina Baumert, and I teach at Matawan Aberdeen Middle School. I teach a class called Design Lab. That's a little bit of 3D printing, a little bit of cricketing, a lot of design thinking. I am the head coach under an athletics umbrella for the Matawan Esports program. And I've been teaching there for 13 years, everything from special ed to Design Lab.
Pleasure to have you both. PK.
What is up? I am PK Graff. I am an instructional designer by day. I spend my time teaching teachers how to teach virtually or online. I also am the general manager of FOCO Esports. We are 22 programs strong, 7 varsity programs, 2 academy programs, 1 alternative, and 11 middle school programs. I have approximately 350 esports gamers, athletes under my tutelage in that group. And I am the newly appointed director of the Ghost Gaming Academy, where we are where we are focusing on creating an environment or a community where all gamers can belong and thrive.
Congrats again on that new appointment. Such an exciting new development. I'm excited to see how we can continue to partner and create those opportunities for young people. So just to kick things off, I want to provide some context. Today we really wanted to jump into this topic of building a community. We spent the last 2 podcast episodes talking a little bit about what is Scholastic Esports. I think in our second episode, we talk about, the alignment with career technical education. But today, we really want to focus on a lot of the ins and outs about building the community, because we know that once you get started with building a program, it's like, okay, so I have the program, but now what? And part of that process in terms of organizing, there's things like engaging your stakeholders, right? What league do I join? How do I promote my program? How do I recruit students within the program? What does the schedule look like? What is a club versus teams in competition? Are there legal considerations? Is funding, equipment, so many different questions. And so we really wanted to spend today just having a conversation. But before we start diving into the specifics, because we have these lovely guests here, I did want to take a moment to just allow you all to share your stories about how you got involved in Scholastic Esports and kind of where your plans are and where you're going next. So we'll bring PK back here in a second, but let's spend some time with Dina and Alyssa. And I'm pronouncing that right, correct, Dina? Sweet. Okay. So PK, we'll see you in a bit, and we will have some questions later on. So let me move. There we go. All right. So please, ladies, again, it's a pleasure to have you on here. I'd love to just hear your story. Tell me, how you got started. I mean, why you even got started in this space in the first place. And just talk about kind of your journey within Scholastic Esports, also your involvement with Garden State Esports as well.
I'll go first this time.
Hey, there we go.
So esports was something that was brought to me by a student, but I've worked with video games in education for probably all 13 years that I've taught. It was something that came in on my second year. And the journey to building an esport program really came from student-driven interest. They really just wanted a space where they could game. And it took time to get the stakeholders, talk to my principal, find a space. I'm very lucky. My principal actually approached me about creating a space that would be good for my class, but also would offer a spot for esports as well. And was very lucky in that I had a lot of administrative support in creating this program. But it is very much uncharted waters. And I actually forgot to mention that I am currently a GSE trainee, right, to learn to join the GSE team a little bit more. And the more you know, the more you realize we're all building this from the ground up together. And it's awesome to be focusing on the topic of community. So we just recently were board approved to be a head coach under an athletics umbrella. So we're really excited about that. I get to work with 2 assistant coaches. We have a really solid middle school program. Alyssa kicked our butts, and we're working on getting our high school program up and running. So really looking to the future, we're working on things like varsity letter approval and helping kids get recruited for college. And I think I would consider us in the process of evolving from a club to a full athletic.
Super exciting. Appreciate you sharing. The journey continues. Alyssa, what's your story all about?
So right as we were going back to school in 2020, made the switch from elementary school to high school, and just jumped right on in there. And that was when Garden State Esports was doing their startup, and they were first running their first few things, and it was the very, very start. So within the first few weeks, I had to find out who the kids in the school were that would be the gamers, because I'd been there for all of 5 seconds. Found out who the couple of kids are. I had a meeting with them. Found out, what they would want out of an esports team. They were super gung-ho. So they reached out to gamer friends. I reached out through the school newsletter and, announcements and all that. I held an interest meeting. I had something like 70 kids sign up for my very first meeting. And we went from 0 to 100. I put out an interest form. And being that I wanted it to be true to Scholastic Esports, I not only put out what games and titles they were interested in playing, I put who wanted to be a shoutcaster, who wants to do technology backend, who's comfortable, running a Twitch stream, all of it. So I jumped in head first and then was treading water. We started Discord. We within 6 weeks of our first interest meeting had a club charter, a president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. We had to fill out the forms to be an official club. We still hold club status, not an athletic status. We were I had 2 Overwatch teams, 2 Rocket League teams, and a Valorant team that spring season all at once. I was lucky that we were virtual in the afternoons at that point, so that I could do all of that at once and have different computers and all that. The kids were phenomenal. They were so excited. And after that season, we started esports in both high schools and all 3 middle schools in my district. And that's where I am now. And yes, reigning 2-time state champion at Smash from my little middle schoolers. They're phenomenal.
And remind me too, GSE recently just held a big finals event. Maybe one of you or both of you could talk about some of the experiences and things that you saw within that event.
So Dina's team actually participated in Rocket League. They were in the semifinals. We had semifinals and finals for Rocket League for middle school, same semifinals and finals for high school Rocket League, semis and finals for middle school Smash, high school Smash, and League of Legends. It was an all-day event. We had representatives from Fit Gamer. We had colleges for the kids to get scouted and to scout colleges that have esports programs. We had our corporate sponsors there. We had decorations and big giant GSE balloons, and We had students doing the broadcasting. We have a student team that came in and did that. It was completely student driven, student centered, and it was an amazing day.
Ooh, yeah, I
Definitely.
saw some photos. That's pretty exciting. Dean, anything to add to that? I'd love to hear your experience with it.
It was my first time coaching. I was a rookie coach there, and it is amazing to watch your kids get up there and compete on stage. They were so excited just to make the big show. You know, we started virtually and we were all gaming like where you're talking tonight on computers on a Meet. And then it grew to be a program where we were all in a room together on PCs. And then for them to get to the stage and compete that day, it was so incredible to see just all of it come together. The GSE experience inspires them so much. They walk in there in awe and they've never seen anything like that, let alone be able to be participating and be showing off their skills there, you know? So it's a really incredible experience. The Garden State Esports Finals is worth the visit, is all I'm going to say. It's worth the trip. Whether you're coming there to compete or not, it's an amazing day for gaming. And like Alyssa said, showcasing student work.
Yeah, that's so exciting. A shout out to Chris, Regina, Jim, and the rest of the GSE team for putting on an amazing event. You know what? So we've been talking about kind of your journeys, but I'd like to actually jump in and, really engage with our audience around some of the fundamental questions around how we're building these communities. I mean, from this event alone, it sounds like it's more than just video games and sitting in front of a computer, right? You're actually bringing people together in the same space, celebrating the learning that's happening, and really showcasing the value that gaming and esports has for not just the students, but for the rest of the community. So let's bring our friends back. And we actually have a new friend that just joined us, PK, and then Mary. Mary, if you don't mind just doing a quick intro for our audience, that way they get to know you, who you are, where you're from, and what you're doing with Scholastic Esports, and then we'll jump right into our questions.
All right. Good evening, everyone, or hello, or good morning, or wherever we're at. I'm Mary Phillips, and I am an elementary STEM teacher in South Haven, Michigan. I teach a class called I Create, and as a part of I Create, my fifth graders participate in a Scholastic Esports unit called Gamers, Makers, Leaders. And in it, we talk about healthy gaming habits. We talk about STEM careers within the ecosystem. And of course, we play. And then I also run some farm craft summer camps.
Nice. Just going to throw a little shout out because I know there's also some additional recognition that's been happening. I don't know if you want to mention that as well, because I think it's pretty exciting.
Sure. I'll be presenting at FETSI this year in the Esports Theater in January 23. So I'm very excited about that. And I also received an award from a state level entity. Unfortunately, at this time, I can't share who it is quite yet.
Yeah.
But I'm very honored. It is, I received the award in recognition for the work I'm doing with esports in my elementary classroom. So I am appreciative of that.
Hey, love it. I love it. I mean, this really showcases the fact that what we're doing is being recognized by our leadership. So appreciate you sharing, and we'll keep that hush hush. And we look forward to hearing that announcement. So, well, welcome, friends. I love having all of this energy here. Let's just dive right into some of these questions, because I know our audience is probably thinking, what are all of you doing and how did you get here? So one of the first questions I do want to ask is, when you're building your community, right, there's so many different aspects to really managing, either as a coach and as an advisor, as a teacher, as a director. So for our audience out there, what would you say would be your absolute firsts that you should establish before anything? And essentially what I'm asking is, when you're thinking about the foundational steps to start, what are those pieces that are fundamental to making sure that your program is successful?
I know that one of the things that I did upfront was, as I mentioned, I had an interest form. And in that, I make it very clear that there's gaming pieces and then there's the Scholastic pieces. There's the different jobs, the codec, the codec curriculum, where we're going to have those things that lead to career opportunities outside of just the gaming world. So I think it's really important that both get introduced simultaneously so that the students see that it's not just like, hey, we're going to play Fortnite with our friends on a, Tuesday afternoon.
Love that.
Mine would be, it's pretty simple. Go down the street to your local grocery store, get a generous sized box of cookies, and go to your IT director and give the cookies to your IT director. All funny aside, I think that the most important thing when you're getting started, biggest hurdle for most is going to be your IT restrictions, firewalls, all those sorts of things. So befriending your school's ITS or your district level admin, or if it's a firewall engineer, or whoever it is, get them some cookies and be nice.
That's great advice.
I would say take one step at a time. Definitely make sure that you're building good routines with your kids and meeting with them regularly. And while we all have fun gaming, it's definitely important to transition them. Like Alyssa was talking about Kodak and different things. We're not just hanging out at someone's house today, showing them that we're getting ready to do something that's just a little bit more organized, a little bit more focused, so we can hone in on the benefits and really help them develop a little bit more as a player together. Right? Today's about community. We're talking about community. They're very used to gaming on their own, maybe with some of their friends. And now we're in a room. How do we all game together? How do we play together? How do we collaborate and work together as a team?
I'd like to tap into that too, as one of the things that I emphasize so much with my team is sportsmanship. And gaming in general. There's so much toxic language. And I, for my students, players, would be able to tell you that our most important thing is being good people. Like, you must be a good human before you're a good gamer. And they will, if they want to be on my team, that is strictly prohibited. There are certain terms that are not allowed to be said in my room. There are certain, types of language they wouldn't even dare use. This is a school sanctioned activity, and you shall act as such. And we are going to learn to win graciously and lose graciously.
For me, I would say have fun. Establish a community where kids are enjoying each other's company, and that might take some strategic work. It can be as simple as, hey, let's play Rocket League together. Sit down with a student with the Switch, start playing, and say, oh, hey, come on in, I got to grab something, why don't you hop in? And grabbing that student that maybe those two students don't work together normally. Help them see how fantastic their fellow humans are, and let them get to know each other. So for me, it's all about making it fun, being in the middle of it, and modeling that friendly, easygoing, we're here to play, because after all, video games are for everyone.
I love that. Being inclusive, really setting the tone for the community, creating things like club charters and expectations, of each other and in the space. And then most importantly, just like BK said, making sure your IT's on board, have those cookies on deck. I'm actually going to throw this question for a whirl a bit. This is not within our outline here, because I just want to twist it up, because we talked about kind of first. But I'm curious, part of this journey, there's a lot of setbacks and failures. What are some potential setbacks or things that you should really look out for? And this could be something, like a mistake or misstep that you may have had on your journey. Let's share those with the audience, because we know it's not all glitz and glam. There are trials and tribulations in this journey of Scholastic Esports, for sure.
I'd like to jump in right away on that one. Having a lot of experience in terms of failure, I I have created curriculum for this. I want to encourage everyone to use this responsibly. Discord is an amazing tool. Um, these gamers are there. That's their native habitat. But be very careful, be very cautious as you open up that Pandora's box. Make sure that you are locking down your servers and you are using bots to help moderate. And if you have any questions about how to do that and how to do that well, I'm more than happy to help, because I have learned the hard way dealing with lots of very nasty things going on in Discord land. Yes, caution.
I would say a big setback, a lot of struggles that I didn't realize I was going to have is in where to purchase things and how to purchase things. As an educator, I always thought the biggest problem was trying to find the money. But sometimes, even when you have the money, you may not have a way to purchase that appropriately in a Scholastic esports setting, because our purchasing is a little bit more restrictive and there's a little bit more. So, navigating vendors and where you can get items, we're used to just being able to go out. I mean, you can get a Switch on Amazon, and have it delivered tomorrow. But in Scholastic settings with Scholastic money, sometimes there's a little bit more to it. And I didn't anticipate that lead time. I wish I had known that ahead of time, because like Alyssa, we jump in head first. Here in Jersey, we just get to it, right? We don't waste time. And that's not how purchasing works when it comes to Scholastic esports. So I would say really take your time and get to know your purchasing procedures. It can be a little trickier than you think.
My biggest hurdle, I didn't have the box of cookies suggestion, and getting that IT up and going was really a hard transition, because we started as a virtual team because it was during COVID. Um, we were My kids were on Discord. One thing I will say about Discord and Discord getting messy is I do require every student to friend me when they join Discord, and then I see everything that happens in my server. So I'm constantly on top of them. They know it's not the wild west of the technology world. I'm constantly moderating it, as well as I have two people assigned to watch it moderate, because when I do need to sleep sometimes. um when we finally decided to get into school, Rocket League was pretty easy to get started with. Anything on the Switch was really difficult. In the IT end of it, I'm still on a hotspot for the Switches. They could not figure out how to get it on the LAN. So that is definitely an issue. Along with the Discord, I also am very, very careful about having parental permission for everything we do. For Discord, I have a parent permission slip. It explains what Discord is, what few security features parents have that they can set, and the kid and the parent must sign off on it to even be allowed in my server.
Mary, any other additional thoughts?
I think my biggest barrier getting started was stakeholder buy-in. And I would say lean into the stakeholders that do have buy-in. I was hoping that support would come from administration levels, district level, like, yeah, we see this is really important, we got your back. And it really wasn't, it didn't play out like that. But where the support did come from was actually parents. Parents were extremely enthusiastic and actually approached me and said, hey, is there any plan to do elementary esports? My child hasn't found their people yet, and I think this would be a great opportunity. They're not playing rocket football. They're not doing, gymnastics or something like this. And so leaning into that support has been really, really great. So I think that that's something important to consider, is where is your stakeholder support going to be, and how do you start with that and build your program, and then I really believe that if you do it right, um, and the students will tell your story, then you're going to get stakeholder buy-in elsewhere.
Absolutely. At NASEF, one of the things that we like to say when you're getting started is you're not just building a program, you're building a culture of Scholastic Esports. In order to build the culture, you have to have that community. And just like we're talking about, that involves everyone from the admin, the parents, the students, yourselves, other teachers, and the rest of all the other community stakeholders. It's so important to have everyone bought in, because we're not just educating students at this point. Because Scholastic Esports is so new, we're also educating the rest of the community as to the value that we can bring through gaming and esports in our communities. I'd like to transition a bit, because one thing that I've seen, and it's a pretty big, I think, I would say red flag. People get really excited about Scholastic Esports, and admin gets really excited. Next thing you know, they're buying all this equipment with a fancy esports lab, and then they're like, "Oh, we got to compete. We got to compete." But obviously, there's so many different leagues and organizations to navigate. I'll obviously shamelessly plug NASEF. We have our free competitions both in competitive esports as well as in Minecraft. But we also have local state affiliates like GSE that offer multiple titles where you can compete in. So let's just bring that out into the fold. When you're thinking about, let's say you have all this equipment, you maybe have a team, how do you choose which league to join and which competition to join?
For me, it was I did a little research and I saw NASEF, which I have friends who were participating and starting. It was when Garden State Esports was being started. And I did look at a couple of the for profit companies to see what they offered and how it would work. If you're working in a district that has limited funding, or you're starting a brand new club that has not been given a budget yet, that can get very expensive very quickly, in the pay for leagues. Another issue for that is you could make students pay for it, but then you have inequity. And I try to make everything as equitable as possible at all times for my team. The bottom line was, when I started looking at the companies that charged, it was, they're making a profit off of kids playing. And, then you got to look at how many forfeits, are you seeing because I'm paying for this, and what am I getting for what I pay for? And the NASEF affiliates are just all people who are in it because they want to be. It is not people who are doing it to make the buck. These are, most of us have an education background. We're working with and in schools. We want what's best for students at all times. And it's our heart and soul that we make this happen because we want it to, not because I'm bringing, prize money to my school, or filling some corporate company's pockets. So I highly, highly recommend the affiliates. They talk to each other. They work together through NASEF. There's some joint effort there that happens, and that was the right fit for me and my school. And most of New Jersey we're now more than half of the districts in Jersey joined with us. So it seems to be the right move for most of where we live.
Wow, Drell, that's a loaded question, my friend. um, Unfortunately, in Georgia, where I am, my varsity programs, basically the only option that they have is to play in a pay-to-play league. And Alyssa set up my soapbox perfectly. I preach this as much as I can. Scholastic Esports leagues must be free to the end user. The games that are offered must be free to play, and the games must be cross-platform. That's my soapbox. But seriously, I think it's really important to research your ecosystem. My middle school, my group of 11 middle schools has played in pay-to-play leagues. We have played in free-to-play leagues, and we now currently play inside of our own ecosystem. And that way, my coaches, my gamers have a direct voice in how they play, what they play, when they play. It's not always possible. I understand that. But for us, it really is that best fit, having tried everything. So I think I think it's something that you, like Alyssa said, you got to do your research. But I definitely caution, paying to play if you don't really have to.
I think another thing to consider is the support that you're going to receive from that community. It's not just a league, it's a community of potential support. And for me, I see a lot of support from NASEF. We are here together. I don't play competitively, but my husband runs a local league through NASEF affiliate, and those coaches have each other's back. They cheer for each other's teams, even when their team's eliminated, they're right over there in the seats going, come on, you got this. That was a great move, and how do I get started with this? How did you, what are the technical requirements for this? And all of that support is there. For me, my elementary school, we play as a curricular unit in a curriculum, hopefully after school soon and in summer camp. But Farmcraft through NASEF's Farmcraft has been incredible. I'm in a rural community, and we're the blueberry capital of the world. Agriculture is the backbone of our economy. And to be able to say, we're going to play video games competitively, yay! We're going to farm. Wait, what? Yeah, we're going to farm competitively. And boy, are they in it. And we don't compete against each other. We only compete against ourselves. But having a little bit of, content there that, from science and from their gen ed classroom really has given incredible buy-in from other people. And none of the opportunities that we've had would have been possible without NASEF.
NASEF was definitely where I got my start. When you research, NASEF is one of the first that pops up. I had a kid who came to me every day for 3 years. Where's Esports? Where's Esports? Where's Esports? And I'm like, okay, I'm working on it. If you're listening, Jacob, I'm still working on it, buddy. We're getting there. And then as it gave me the resources I needed to kind of bring in stakeholders and go to my admin and go to my, curriculum and instruction. And I'm very lucky to have a lot of buy-in there. But even then, even though they bought in, they didn't understand what I needed or what I would be looking for or what that would look like. And NASEF did offer good resources for me to get started. But then at the same time, Garden State Esports was born. And Chris Aviles is like, I hear you're starting an esports team. And I was like, maybe. And the dual community support was really tremendous, because the more you can have someone to lean on when your technology isn't working, when you're looking to get free resources, even when you're just looking for somebody to scrimmage in the middle of the week to kind of get everybody going, it also is to have the option between competitive and non-competitive, because you have kids who are just there to game and have a good time. And their kids, it's inspiring. Like I was talking about earlier, seeing my kids on the main stage, it lit a fire in them I haven't seen before. They left and they lost. They weren't mad they lost. They were like, we're going to be practicing on Monday. And I was like, okay. And to see their grades improving and to hear their classmates cheer them on. The first time they heard their names over the announcements for scores and the games won, and that we may have versed Bayshore or Hazlitt or one of the other middle schools, the same as the soccer team. To have that kind of bigger connection, to break a gamer's world open like that, it's tremendous. So anytime we can find community, we can then offer and expand their worlds to a bigger community. So definitely NASEF for the affiliates. No pay for play.
I love that. So we're talking about building communities within our own community, but part of that is also connecting with the broader community in order to figure out how you can continue to build. So you actually brought up an interesting point. You were talking about the comparison of, a competitive team versus a club. So I'm curious just to hear from you all, like, what does that look like? Like, what's the difference between the two, just to help our audience kind of understand? Because like I said earlier, I've seen the mistake. Many folks jump into the space and they want to get competitive. They want to start a team right away. They want to get the fancy esports lab. But we know what we're doing is more than just that. So I'd love to hear your experiences around club versus community.
So I kind of jumped in, I dove right in the pool into competitive esports right away, and then backed up the bus a little bit and allowed more of a club thing happening. So for me and how my team's kind of been, the team, the competitive players are the ones that are in the championship league, and they are vying, for the big belt that we have here in Jersey that you win. It's a wrestling belt. They're gunning for that. The club players are casually gaming. So they come in, I'll put up some brackets, and they'll play each other much more informally. It's like an intramural for me, for my club players. In Garden State Esports, we also have a happy medium called the Contender League. And in that, you play a 3 or 4 game season. It's about a 1-month season. And you dabble in the competitive realm to see how it works for your team. So we start off teams with that to make sure that they understand what the commitment is, because it's every week. You can't be on the basketball team and be practicing with our team at the same time. So this is a commitment. We run it as you do seasons of regular athletics. So we have fall, winter, and spring. It's if you want to play soccer, go ahead in the fall and play soccer. You can join us in the winter. I'm happy to have you, but you can't do both at the same time. So club is back to your original question. Club for me is much more intramural. And then the competitive team, this is what it's like to be on a team, and you are going to make that full on commitment. And we're playing other schools who are expecting us to be there.
I unmuted. Oh, Dina did too. Go, Dina, go.
So I'm in the middle. We literally just were voted from a club to an athletic, and the transition, even we've been competitive for the last couple seasons, for the last 2 years. I would say the difference is competitive meets to practice. Competitive plays to win. So we're working on skill packs. We are talking after matches and reviewing our own tapes. We're looking at ourselves as players. You're definitely a higher ranking within that game, and you're maintaining your grades, you're maintaining your behaviors. And the competitive gamers, I explained, I'm like, you guys are the same as the basketball or the football team. We're here to represent, and it's the best of the best. So we're committed. There's a lot more, I guess the word really just is commitment. Whereas when we were a club, I mean, one of my gamers gamed under his coffee table when we were virtual for 2 years. It was like the running joke, and it was just meant for all of us to be together and to build skills and to have common interests. A club, I think, is more joining and playing for fun. Competitive offers an opportunity for somebody who's really into a game and has extraordinary skill to showcase that and get to have an arena where that's valued and seen for the, positive impact it can have.
The only play I do is a club, but for me, I see a club format as a way to focus on it. It shifts your focus a little bit as far as like what your priorities are. So a club format for me, the focus is on connection between the students and their legally responsible adults in the room, and as a fellow gamer, it allows me to have really, really rich conversations with my students. In the club style, we have our water bottles with us. We do stretches to exercise our fingers and our wrists. We talk about why that's important. we take the time to set up our chairs and make sure that our posture looks good. And I say, this is going to allow you to be that grandma gamer, that grandpa gamer, you got to keep your body in shape. And it starts now with those good habits. And a club format is such an informal way to do it. It's like chatting with a friend, or playing with a bigger sibling or something. It really allows me to shift my role into one where I'm with the student, we're playing this together, we're sharing a common love for something, and for once I don't have all the answers, and neither of us do, and it's just really to enjoy it. So for me, Club Foundation is all about setting those healthy habits and doing so in a format where the students really buy into it. Okay, we're all playing games together. Cool. I'll listen to you a little bit, about why I need to drink water, especially if it's going to make me a better gamer.
I can tell you, Mary, those stretches and that posture is really important, even at my age. You don't even have to be a grandpa or grandma to need that stuff. These hands will tell lots of stories in that regard. So whether it's my alternative schools, my academies, my clubs, or my varsity programs, I like to say esports is more than wins and losses. It's brothers and sisters beating bosses. From highs to lows, we counting goals. Achievements, skins, knocking blows. Together we all play the game. Yo, esports, that's the anthem. You can keep the fame. Hey. But serious, it's esports is so much more than wins and losses. We're teaching these young people how to have strong character. Winning with grace and losing in the same. It is so important to make sure that we help our students, we help our gamers better understand the fact that we play video games to have fun. If you're not having fun, all the success in the world isn't going to feel like enough. But a loss in a regular match or a state championship, when you know you're having fun and you know you did your best, and you know that you're on your team and you're representing, like, it doesn't matter, because we're there, everyone, to celebrate everyone and live it up. So yeah,
Love the rhymes. Appreciate it, PK. I actually want to bring a question in from the chat, because we've been talking about what it looks like in schools, since we're all operating within that space. But our friend Jeff Bostic from Central Library in Rochester, New York, he asks, if you guys had a community organization like a library, how would you go about building that community?
it's funny you asked that. I actually am working with a similar organization, not my community library, but my community parks and rec. And I will tell you, it is a lot of work, because you don't have like kids walking into your class every period. There aren't always kids walking up and down the hall. You have an amazing space. I've seen it, but you are like kind of isolated, right? So things like the Boys and Girls Clubs, YMCA's, finding the schools that are within walking distance of your facility, and then going and engaging with the leaders in those facilities, in those places, would, in my opinion, would be a great place to start. Because once you've engaged with those leaders, then you can figure out what the logistics might be to be able to maybe work with one of the schools as an after-school event, or maybe be a recreational outing for a Boys and Girls Club or a YMCA. But yeah, again, kind of doing your research to figure out which orgs are near and willing to collaborate.
I would say a great way to get started would be to look at a one-off opportunity. Just get people interested. a great time to do that would be during a break, a school break. Host a gamers day, local library, get some flyers to the schools before that break. And especially, like this year, we have a full week that we're on vacation. We're on holiday break before we go back in January. So families will be looking for activities to do. And we're at a really cool place in history where we have gamers, parents and guardians, gamer kids, gamer grandmas and grandpas, some of them, and find a way to bring them all in, or find a way to let them drop their children off for a little bit and play. One, hey, was this cool? Did you enjoy this? Do you think we should do more of this? Yeah, build up to a camp, a day camp during the summer. And from there, start looking at, Friday night, Friday night lights, but, esports or something like that. So start with one off. That allows you to refine your logistics, start reaching your community, and word of mouth will get out. If, a few kids show up, oh man, my mom made me come here. Oh, wait, this was really cool. Next time, can I bring my friends? And it will grow that way as well.
I think also community organizations are usually very welcomed into the schools if they want to do a presentation about something that's for kids and that'll be a positive in their lives. So if they were to come into a school with, 2 or 3 switches and go from class to class saying, this is what we're going to be doing, this is the kind of thing we're going to be doing, they could kind of drum up business to per se that way. And then one of the awesome things about esports is it doesn't have to be in person. You can start off with some virtual community gaming nights. You don't, and then start building towards like, hey, let's have a team of kids who, come on Tuesdays after school and play for an hour. So esports allows for a lot more opportunities because it can be in person or virtual, and that all these community things can go straight into the schools. In the district where I work, the Y even runs the after school programs and before school programs. So all these, library, the Y, all these organizations have just such easy access to the people they want to reach.
Love that. And just quick shout out to Jeff, because I know he's doing some pretty incredible stuff at the Central Library. Shout out to the Central Library Liberators. Y'all are liberating. I know they just got Twitch affiliate status and they're working on partner status. So definitely check them out. It's twitch.tv/esports_liberators. Check them out, the homies. Give them some love. I'd like to transition our conversation a little bit because we're talking about community. And then I mentioned earlier, part of building community is really establishing a culture. So thinking about this culture, you mentioned, Alyssa, it can be online, it could be in person. But I think what's most important when you're establishing that culture, so I'd like to hear some of the strategies around this, is how do you integrate really the digital citizenship piece here? Because you talked about earlier that the gaming space can be toxic, right? We know that exists not just in the gaming space, but even in the wider esports culture and industry. Some of the biggest respected quote unquote streamers are extremely toxic. And I think in the Scholastic space, we have an opportunity to change that and shift that dynamic. So I'm just curious, like, what are some of the strategies that you utilize within your programs and in your community to be able to encourage that positive, culture and space that allows for inclusion and equity within the space?
I will say I hit it from several different angles because I'm a coach in the same school I work in. I do digital citizenship lessons in their classes with them and the whole community. And we talk about like, what things are you doing with screen time? What games are you playing? What are you streaming? And we have those conversations. And then have you ever heard things that make you feel uncomfortable, or behind a screen, people feel comfortable saying things that they wouldn't say to you in person. If you had said that on a soccer field, you'd have a red card and you'd be off the field. So we have a lot of those conversations that start in classrooms and then continue in the esports arena. So when they come into my room for esports, they've already got that foundation. We've done the beginning, the groundwork, and now it's okay. We see these things right now. We see these things online of the toxic language. There are certain prohibited words in my classroom. There are, we all sign the good luck, have fun pledge before we're allowed to participate in a game. That is part of Garden State Esports philosophy. And I know that my team is not always the kids who are recognized for athletics and usually recognized. And now these kids are getting that recognition. So I want it to be all positive. And that's my goal. I want this just to be such a great, safe place for them. And that's really what I'm doing with it.
I feel like naturally kids together, they just, when they're gaming in the room together, I find that going from being digitally separated to together in a club or a competitive, any kind of setting, it automatically changes the tone because it's not a faceless gamer. You're not playing some nameless person from God knows where. It's someone in school who you may have never spoken to before. Something that caught me off guard, we were just recently down at New Jersey school boards, kind of showing off the good stuff that esports can bring. And I prepared the kids and we talked about, they're going to ask you, what's your favorite part? I said, so let's practice that. And the answer I got was friendship. The number one answer. It actually caught me off guard. I was like, and I think that that is a true, point to this, right? That it's not that when they come in, you don't actually have to talk too much about toxic culture. It's really more reframing these video games. And I said, I know you watch these guys and the crazy things they say. I said, but how many times have you heard that language on the Yankee game? Or how many times have you seen that happen in a football game, right? I said, if we go to the basketball game down in the gym right now, would they yell those things? No, because they'd get, fouled or they'd get ejected from the game. And it just brings it from where you're hiding, I think, behind that screen into this whole new reality. And I really think that kids are enjoying that value. I think they're enjoying making that, new way of kind of seeing how gaming could be. Really just being in person, whether you're clubbing or competitive, changes the whole tone of what gaming, I think, looks like.
I'm going to piggyback off of that because Deanna talked about the importance of being in person. And for my students, we often start our work in Minecraft simply building next to each other. We do a starter town template. We start building next to each other. But before we go into that world, we talk about how many of you, why do you play video games? Because they're fun. Okay, so they should always be fun. But have you ever played a game where it wasn't fun? Oh, yeah. Well, why is that? Well, and what they inevitably bring up are the actions of others. And I let them get that all off their chest. Oh yeah, those griefers, and we, have an opportunity to clarify language for kids who are like, wait, what's that, or what does that mean? Yeah, okay. So others, the actions of other gamers can affect our game, our experience, and we're there to have fun. Yeah. Well, if others' actions affect us, that means that our choices affect, and they're like others. Yeah. So being in person, the students love the chat feature. And I say, no, you're going to talk to somebody IRL in real life. Step away from the screen if you need to, get up and move, go and talk to them, handle conflict, or have a conversation in real life. And I think that that's a really powerful opportunity to remind them that, hey, that skin on there, that avatar is a human being. I'll also say this. I think that digital citizenship needs to challenge students not to adapt to the toxic environment or respond to it, but to dismantle it. The kids don't want to be a part of it. They don't want to be a part of an environment like that. and they're courageous. And if we empower them and say, hey, here's a step to start with, it can be as simple as knock it off, or we don't do that here. Give them the power to say, you know what, we can change what this looks like, what this feels like. And my students know video games are for everyone.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's much more I need to say after those. That is fantastic. All I have to do is point at my sign. It's been my hashtag, it's been my mantra. I always end my videos with stay positive out there, gamers. The best part about that is early on, usually like, inside the first quarter, sometimes even the first couple weeks, I will catch my students quoting stay positive out there, gamers back to me. And I'm like, I'm in your heads. I'm in your heads. Right? But it's true, and they learn that. So everything that was said, I second, triple, quadruple it. And just that constant reminder of we play video games for fun, and you have to make every effort to stay positive, even in the face of adversity.
Love that. And I love hearing that all the time, PK. I love hearing you say that. I think we're talking about this idea of good gamers, but essentially, and I saw this in the chat earlier, we're helping build good humans as well. I mean, that's ultimately, we're using gaming as a platform, but we're talking about building community. In order to have a positive community, we also have to create that positive culture within these spaces too. So I appreciate all the efforts. I think it's really changing the dynamics, and I'm hoping that this will also affect future leaders in how they create spaces for the rest of the world. We're almost about time here. I did want to hit a question around funding, but we don't have enough time, and that could be a whole podcast in itself around funding. So maybe we'll try to hit that in our next episode. But I do want to throw a fun one in. If, let's say, you could encapsulate your journey in Scholastic Esports as a song, what would that song be? And that'll be kind of our wrap before we end the show.
Didn't I already rap mine?
Yeah, you got your anthem, but you got to come up with another one. Just another one for sure.
Can we do like Party in the USA or something, like cute and fun, or maybe Be Happy? Be happy.
There you go. There you go. Get that energy going for sure. It definitely takes a lot of energy to run this space.
I would say Queen. I'm a little more rock and roll. I'm going to go with Don't Stop Me Now. Because I'm having a good time. Having a good time. I think that would be it.
Well, as a small town girl, okay, maybe not, born in North Detroit, I'm going to have to go with Journey's Don't Stop Believing.
Hey, PK, did you come up with a secondary?
Yeah, but I'm going to stick with the hip hop rap. I'm going to go with Russ and Utah Freestyle. Nothing went right, so I went left.
There you go. Loving the hip hop representation. That's a whole other topic we could also get into. Shout out to Jihan and the cross section of hip hop and gaming. I think there's a lot that we can explore there. So we are at about time. And I just want to say thank you to all of these amazing Scholastic Esports leaders for sharing their insights and expertise with the rest of our community. Like I said, we could have a conversation for hours on end about all these different topics, but I'm hoping our audience got some nugget of wisdom to help them on their journey. And I appreciate the incredible work that you're all doing. I know it's hard work, but you are paving the way for all of the other educators to continue building these wonderful communities around gaming and esports. So thank you again. Thank you to our audience, and thank you to our maybe VOD watchers that are watching this after the live recording. I appreciate you tuning in. I hope you'll tune in to our next episode. We typically run these on the last or third to last Tuesdays of every month. We will share our next one for sure. But thank you again. I hope everyone has an amazing rest of your days, evenings, afternoons, and I hope you all have an incredible holidays and Happy New Year's. So thank you again. And PK, go ahead and close it out with your usual ending for our friends out there.
This is Coach Graff saying, stay positive out there, gamers.
Thanks, everyone.